broadcasts. Make America great again. Great again, pro-life again, holy and strong and safe and prosperous and on the right path. You know, President Trump has been having a lot of great rallies all across the country, and I hope you've been watching them. We've been airing some of them right here on our Facebook page. We've been spreading them all over the place. We have the links to them at prolifevote.com/Trump rallies. And the reason we're doing that is that to help voters be inspired, to help voters decide which way to go in this election, you got to take a look at the progress we've made. And it's been tremendous progress over the last 2 years. Promises made, promises kept by the president, by the Republican Congress. You know, the tricky thing here is that most of us do not hear about all the progress that's being made. That doesn't make the progress any less real, but the media is only giving us a fraction of the story. Look at it for yourself. In fact, early tomorrow morning, if you're signed up for my emails, you'll be getting an email listing a couple of hundred accomplishments that have been made over the past 2 years. And again, that's meant to be a motivation to get out and vote and to get others to vote. You may well have voted early already, but get those people on your email list, on your contacts list, on your social media platforms, and on your telephone list to get out and vote as well. And one of the things that can motivate them to do that is to see all the progress, the tremendous progress. So I want to start off with that. And secondly, you know, to look at the dangers that face us in a lot of these broadcasts that we've been doing each night and each morning. And by the way, you can look at them all. I'm sending out another email this evening, as a matter of fact, with the links to the various programs that we have done over these recent weeks. You will see us having talked about the comparison of the two parties and the dangers that face us as Americans. We've got to wake people up about this. And that is so much of an important part of preparing for these elections. But what we want to talk about tonight is a very popular brochure that we have called Voting with a Clear Conscience. Voting with a Clear Conscience is a booklet I wrote some years ago, and then we condensed it into this brochure that we've been handing out all over the country, and lots of copies have been going out. And it has 10 points, and I want to go through the 10 points with you, so that we can do what every believer should want to do, and that is, at the end of Election Day tomorrow, have a clear conscience. Know that we've done the right thing before God, that we haven't committed any sins of commission or sins of omission, but rather everything we've done has been with a right conscience before God, and everything that should be done, we can honestly say that we accomplished it. So I'm going to go through these points. Now let me show you where to find this particular brochure on our website. Once again, our election website is prolifevote.com. That is our election headquarters. And there's lots of things on that page. When you go all the way down, there's a section that you see that says booklets. And one of the booklets mentioned there is Voting with a Clear Conscience. That link will take you to the points that I'm going to review with you now, all 10 of them. Let's talk. Let's discuss these points. And as always, I love to hear your comments as we are talking about all this. The first necessary thing to do in order to vote with a clear conscience, obviously, is to vote. Now, hopefully, of course, by now you have registered properly. Just in case you haven't registered, at least register so you'll be ready for the next election. And many of you have voted early, which is good. Early voting enables us to garner more and more people to get to the polls, enables a larger voter turnout, and hopefully that's the result. But voting, indeed, tomorrow is the day. And no matter how long the lines might be, no matter what the weather might be, you know what? Get out there and do the job. Do the job, make the sacrifice, start early. Start as early as possible. I'm always, unless I vote early, which is what I did this time, I'm always the first one at the polling place at 6 o'clock in the morning, because then there's no line. And I don't mind getting up early. I'm sure many of you, likewise, don't mind getting up early. Get up early and be the first one online there. It's kind of a more pleasant experience. It's quiet, and you can get in and out in a relatively brief amount of time. But if your schedule doesn't allow that, friends, persevere. Persevere. It's worth the effort and the sacrifice. I sent out an email yesterday. I hope many of you got it. By the way, if you're not getting my emails, go right there on our website, and you'll be able to sign up for emails right there at the top. But I sent out an email yesterday showing how close so many United States elections have been in our history. I'm going to give you a few examples here tonight as well. Every vote literally does count. And sometimes 1, 2, or a handful of votes decide an entire election. It is worth the time and trouble getting to the polling place, standing on a line for as long as it takes, and getting the vote cast. Now, voting is a duty. It's not only a privilege, it's a moral obligation. Scripturally, our Lord says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. Well, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to the civil authority what you need to give in order for everything to function properly, and part of that is the duty to vote. Our Lord said to his disciples, go make disciples of all the nations, baptize them, and then he said, teach them to carry out everything I have commanded you. So there is a dimension to the work of the church and the work of the gospel to get people to do the things on this earth in the way they organize themselves in this world, in this nation. There's a dimension of that which is the Lord's command. Teach them to carry out everything I have commanded you. And part of that happens when we elect the right kinds of people to make the right kinds of policy decisions. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says this: submission to authority and co-responsibility for the common good make it morally obligatory to exercise the right to vote. Unfortunately, in midterm elections like we have this year, 20% fewer people tend to vote than in every 4-year presidential election. Let's change that tomorrow. We've got to change that tomorrow. If any of you are thinking right now of not voting, if any of you have the idea in the back or the front of your mind or somewhere in between that it's really not that necessary, I'm telling you here in the name of the Lord, it is. It is necessary. It's a duty, it's a privilege, it's worth it, especially in this election. So many races are so close. And the U.S. bishops have written, every voice matters in the public forum, every vote counts. And I want to emphasize that message to you here in this broadcast. The second thing, going closely along with vote, is know the candidates. Now, one of our broadcasts that we have done, these pro-life MAGA broadcasts, in fact, more than one of them, have been in detail dedicated to helping you get to know the candidates. And there on prolifevote.com, you'll see one of the big blue buttons says candidate information. You can get there directly by votinginfo.org. And knowing the candidates is something that you can do in a lot of different ways, as we've discussed, not only going to their websites, but going to the websites of various pro-life groups like National Right to Life, like the Family Research Council, that have all kinds of voter guides and helpful information. iVoterGuide.com is another great source. Look at who the candidates were endorsed by, who they donated to, who donated to them, what positions they take on the issues. The information's out there. The information is out there, and if you haven't gotten hold of it, or if you have friends that still need to get hold of it, go there to that website, votinginfo.org, and get hold of it. Get to know the candidates. There's nothing worse than having gone through all the effort to get to the polling place, and then you go inside the voting booth there, and you see a list of names you've never seen before. or people you've never heard about before, people you don't know the first thing about them. Of course, you know a lot about a person by looking at the party that they belong to, and we'll get more to that point later. You do know a lot about them just by looking at the party. It's one of the reasons for party affiliation, for people to easily let you know where they stand on a whole host of issues, because if a person belongs to a political party, then the presumption is they buy into the platform of that party. So, yes, do use that. Some people say, oh, it's not the letter after the name that matters. Well, it really does matter. It matters a lot. And we'll talk a lot more about that in a little bit. But one of the ways it matters is it really does tell you a lot about where that person stands, how that person is going to vote, and what kind of candidate you're getting if you put them into office. Well, we're going to go into the other points, but I want to take a little pause here right now and show you one of the very powerful videos that we've been disseminating during these days. Take a look.
I feel that the greatest destroyer of peace today is abortion. A direct killing of the innocent child. It is really a war against the child. For the child is the greatest gift of God to the family. Any country that accepts abortion is not teaching its people to love one another, but to use any violence to get what they want. The greatest destroyer of love and peace is abortion.
Friends, we are going through the popular Priests for Life brochure called Voting with a Clear Conscience, 10 Steps. We're on point number 3. Stick with me as we go through these points, and you can find this on our prolifevote.com website down in the section that says booklets, and you'll see Voting with a Clear Conscience. What's point number 3? Point number 3 is reject the disqualified. Now, what does that mean? Suppose a candidate came along and said, I support terrorism. I think the terrorists had a right to do what they did. Do you think that you or any voter would then say, well, sir, I disagree with you on terrorism, but what's your health care plan? What's your education policy? What do you think on this, that, or the other issue? I don't think so. I don't think anybody would even bother to ask any other question, because no matter what kind of plan they might have for healthcare, education, or any other issue under the sun, if they support terrorism, they obviously don't belong in public office. And so this is where you reject the disqualified. You see, is there a candidate on the ballot asking for your vote whose position on any particular issue is completely incompatible with public service? Well, we maintain that that is the case when it comes to abortion, because a candidate who supports it is not recognizing the most fundamental purpose of government, is not recognizing the most fundamental right that the people that that person is supposed to be serving possess, is not recognizing the authority of God, who gives the right to life and says that no one can take it away, is not recognizing what the Declaration of Independence says when it says that this country's government was created to secure the right to life. And if a politician can't respect the life of a little baby, how's he supposed to respect yours or mine? It's so fundamental that a person who gets it wrong is disqualified. Listen to what Pope St. John Paul II said in 1988, in a special document that he wrote, he said, above all, the common outcry which is justly made on behalf of human rights, for example, the right to health, to home, to work, to family, to culture, is false and illusory. If the right to life, the most basic and fundamental right and the condition for all other personal rights, is not defended with maximum determination. So he says, yes, it's justified to cry out for the right to health care, for instance, but if you believe in killing that baby, your concern for health care is false, because now you're concerned for health care only for some human beings, but not for all. Not for all? Well, not for the ones in the womb, because when you take their life away, you take away their health care. You take their life away, they can't immigrate anymore. You take their life away, they can't get an education. You take their life away, they can't vote. If you say that the right to life is disposable, then you're saying that the foundation for all these other rights that you're claiming to be concerned about is also disposable. And when the foundation is disposable, the right itself goes away. So you can't, it's not that abortion is the most important issue and you can be wrong on that but right on the other issues. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, if you're wrong about the right to life, if you're wrong about abortion, you cannot be right on the other issues, because they all hold together. It's like saying you can have beautiful walls of a house without the foundation. It doesn't work that way. And that's why the United States bishops also said that having a wrong position on abortion renders suspect the rightness of positions on other issues. Well, not only do individual candidates have the wrong position on abortion, but an entire political party, the Democratic Party, has the position wrong on abortion. Its platform stands for unrestricted abortion paid for by your tax dollars. And some people wonder why we talk about this. And when John Paul II and when the bishops have said something so clear about our duty towards the right to life in political life, we're supposed to be quiet? I don't think so. So that's number 3, reject the disqualified. Number 4, distinguish policy from principle. What do I mean about this? Well, let's think of it this way. Politicians have debates. Parties have different platforms. They have different solutions to problems that we all recognize exist. So let's take, for example, the question of crime. What would politicians be debating if they start talking about crime in your neighborhood and policies related to crime in your city? Well, presumably they're going to be talking about how to reduce it and eliminate it, right? How to protect the potential victims. And that's where the debate lies. That it may not be self-evident, in other words, how you get there to the point where crime is reduced. It's not going to be self-evident. It's going to have to be trial and error. It's going to have to be debate. It's going to have to be, let's see who has the best evidence that their plan will work or has the best argument that their policy should be adopted. Okay, fine. But the debate is about how to reduce crime, not about whether to reduce it. The debate is about policy, not principle. The candidates or the parties disagree about policy, but not about the underlying principle. The underlying principle they have to agree on. Crime is bad, it's wrong, it doesn't belong in our communities, and our goal is to reduce it. So if the disagreement is on policy, that's all well and good. But what if the disagreement there were on principle? Well, then you would have one candidate saying, everybody vote for me because I have a plan of how to reduce crime in this neighborhood. And then the other candidate would say, well, I'm running on the platform of more crime. I want to increase the amount of crime. I'm running on the platform of the right to commit crime. Is that what the debate is? Do you ever hear a candidate say that? No, because they agree on the principle, they disagree on the policy. And brothers and sisters, in this regard, when it comes to the right to life, the disagreement is not on policy only. In that case, the policy is the principle. Either life is to be protected always and everywhere, or it's not. That's not how to reduce killing, that's whether to reduce it. And people running on the platform of the right to be able to kill these babies, that's pretty bad. And that is why we keep saying that when it comes to issues like abortion, it is not simply a policy disagreement. It's not at the same level of debate. It can't be lined up next to the other issues and we say, oh, this is just one of many issues. You can't think of it that way because that's not the right way to think about it. It's not just one among the many issues. Once again, as we were saying before, it's the foundation, it's the heart and core of every issue. As a matter of fact, we go so far as to say, and John Paul II said it also in his document, The Gospel of Life, that when a government legalizes abortion, that state becomes a tyrant state. It's no longer a place where people are equally protected. It's a place where the strong kill the weak. So the very purpose of democracy is undermined when the government power is being used to kill people. This is big. He says the disintegration of the state itself has begun. So any candidate that's asking for your vote tomorrow, if he or she believes that abortion should be kept legal, and unfortunately, if he or she has a D after their name, that they belong to the Democrat Party, they do believe that, except not even enough exceptions to fill the fingers of one hand. The Democrats believe that abortion should be legal. Well, they believe in a tyrant state. According to Pope St. John Paul II, don't tell me I'm being too political, Pope St. John Paul II said that when government legalizes abortion, it becomes a tyrant state, and the disintegration of the state itself has begun. What are we to do, my friends? Put the words of John Paul II under a bushel basket? Or do we proclaim them from the rooftops? Do you have friends that are going to vote for Democratic candidates? Do they care about the killing of babies? Do they care about the foundation of every human right? Do they care about the words of John Paul II? Do they care about the words of Mother Teresa? Have they even heard those words? Here's where you have an opportunity. Get this message out to them. So those are sections 3 and 4 of this booklet. Voting with a Clear Conscience. We'll be back with the 5th and the 6th. Let's take another look now at another powerful ad to help us prepare for this election.
What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You said that, not me. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this shit.
Well, friends, here at Priests for Life, we believe in spreading the truth, speaking the truth courageously, making sure you have the truth and the tools to bring that truth to those in your lives. So I hope these ads and these programs are as helpful to you as we intend them to be. We're going through this brochure, Voting with a Clear Conscience, and point number 5 is weigh other issues properly. In the light of everything that we've said, we're not saying that other issues aside from the right to life are not important. As a matter of fact, when we affirm the importance of the right to life, we're saying that this makes all the issues even more important. But here's the point, is that we have to weigh them accordingly. It does not make sense, and it is simply not true, morally speaking, that they're all the same or that the issues are of whatever weight we want to give them. Personally, no, that's not the case. It's never been the case. And in particular, in this election, it's important for us to understand the relative weight of the immigration issue, because many people are on a bandwagon of saying that this is the most important issue. It's not. Of course, it's central in the lives of so many people, and it's very much in the news and the headlines. But when we talk about the right to life, when we talk about the Holocaust of abortion that's going on, and unfortunately you have many people who are presenting themselves as heroes and heroines of the immigration issue, and meanwhile they're in favor of killing babies in the womb. And that's the contradiction that we've got to call it out. We've got to look it in the eye and say this is a false and dangerous contradiction. And when those people do that, they undermine their own position on immigration. Oh, but these are people. Oh, but these are our brothers and sisters crossing over the border. Are they as much your brothers and sisters as the baby who's trying to cross the border of the womb and come into birth? I mean, is it that kind of brother or sister? Because you don't seem to have too much respect for them if you're pro-abortion. And if anyone tries to say, as some have tried to say, the assertion that this is as important as the abortion issue, to weigh in a candidate where they stand on immigration as on abortion, brothers and sisters, that's just patently absurd, because abortion is killing over 3,000 children every day on American soil by decapitating them, dismembering them, crushing their heads, pulling off their arms and legs. Could you show me the legal clinics around America that every day are decapitating and dismembering 3,000 immigrants? Did I miss that somewhere? Or even one immigrant? Are we taking away the very right to life that they possess? It's important to understand that these issues cannot possibly have the same equivalence, importance, or gravity unless and until laws are passed saying that we will set up legal clinics to dismember them alive and have it happening at the rate of 3,000 a day. It's an important issue. Of course it is. It's important to me. It's certainly important to the immigrants. But it's not on the same level as abortion. Brothers and sisters, the sixth point in this brochure is keep your loyalty focused on Jesus. And what we mean there is a lot of people vote by party loyalty, maybe because they belong to a union, or they've always voted a certain way in their family for a certain party. Well, we have to be, it's okay to be loyal to a political party. In theory, it's okay. But in practice, we have got to be free to be able to see how that party has changed, and if it has departed in fundamental ways from the faith or morals that the church teaches. Well, we're told in the church documents very clearly we cannot vote for or be in favor of a political platform that departs in fundamental ways from the teachings of faith and morals. And to say that there is some kind of right to kill a baby, you can't get any more fundamental than that. So if keeping our loyalty fixed on Jesus means that's got to be the top loyalty and allow us even to change our preferences of parties. And I have people coming to me all the time, faithful Catholics saying, you know, I used to vote Democrat, but it was on this matter of where things are going in terms of the right to life that I began voting Republican instead. There is no party that perfectly embodies all the moral principles that we believe in, and that's why we have to start making distinctions, differentiating in the hierarchy of values, as we call it. Remember, the party matters. This is point number 7. The party matters. Of course it matters. Now, I continue to be amazed when I talk about the moral dimensions of voting, how you analyze your choice in tomorrow's election. Morally speaking, I continue to be amazed at how many people miss this particular point that I've been trying to make for many years. Let me articulate it again. You want to know morally, how do I make my choice in voting? And so many people say, okay, well, candidate A is asking for my vote, candidate B is asking for my vote, so let me look at what the candidates say and believe. Okay, that's a good start. And in fact, we already talked about that as one of the key principles we're talking about tonight. Know where the candidates stand. But if it's morally significant to know where the candidates stand, because by your vote you might put them into political power, why would it not be equally or even more important to know where the party that they belong to stands? Because when you put that candidate into power, you are increasing the power of that party. It's not just all individual candidates occupying public office. Party line voting is a reality in our legislatures, in our U.S. Congress. Party line voting. Look at the roll calls. When we go on votinginfo.org, and we've had some programs on this where we've looked at the roll calls of how the members of Congress have voted on various bills that were introduced, time and time again you see party line voting. In other words, the Democrats vote one way, the Republicans vote another way. On pro-life, all the votes are party line votes that have been taken in this Congress that's just concluding, all the ones from the previous Congress, and it goes back farther than that. The crossover votes, literally, you can count on one hand. The point I'm making is the party that is in power steers the ship. You know, the party in power, like in the House of Representatives, okay, the question in this election is, will the House of Representatives go under Democrat control? Well, you got to know what the party thinks about these different topics, because if the House were to go under Democrat control, then they have the majority on all the committees. They control the committees, just like now the Republicans are controlling the committees. Well, the committees determine whether a bill is going to survive, whether a bill is going to get a full vote on the floor of the House. And you think that the pro-abortion party is going to let a pro-life bill get onto the floor for a vote? Of course not. And if you have a majority of the pro-abortion party in Congress, you think they're going to pass that bill? The House of Representatives repeatedly voted in this Congress that's concluding now to defund the abortion industry, to defund Planned Parenthood, repeatedly voted to protect babies from 20 weeks forward in the womb, babies who can feel pain. These bills didn't get through the Senate because we need a stronger majority there. But if the Democrats had been in power in the House or get in power again, those bills are not going to pass. They won't even get a vote. So the party matters. It matters especially when you have an election where the balance of power is at issue. The balance of power is at issue in this election. Your vote, the votes in your particular congressional district, no matter where you are, may in fact determine not just who your congressman is. The way this works is that depending on the party your congressman belongs to, if you elect him or her, it doesn't only put him or her into office as your congressman. It puts his or her party into power over the entire Congress. You see the distinction I'm making? And for someone to say that that's not a moral consideration in their vote but it's just completely absurd. Of course it's a moral consideration. It's a highly important one. Because when you put your congressman into office and his or her party then gets more power, and depending on how the other races go, it may be the determining race that shifts the power of the entire House of Representatives over to the Democrats, well, now you've affected the ability of all the other people who are being elected to be able to advance the agenda that they believe in. Now, this boils down to, let me give a concrete application of this, and then I'm going to show you a special video that we've produced at Priests for Life. Some people have asked me this question over recent days. They said, well, in their particular district, they've got a race between a Republican and Democrat, but the Republican is pro-choice, and so they don't know what to do. They know they don't want to vote for the Democrat, but the Republican is pro-choice, so they're not sure they want to vote for them. If the balance of power is at issue, which it is, then you want to vote for the Republican in order to make sure that even though that person may not be pro-life, the party is. And if that person gets into office and that keeps the entire party in power, the pro-life cause is advanced. Because then they control the committees, they're going to get the bills out for a vote, they're going to have a majority of the votes. You see what I'm saying? So you are voting pro-life in that case because of the fact that you are voting for the party in that instance. You're voting for the party in every instance. The party matters. It matters as a very, very consequential effect of your vote. Take a look now at this video. As you know, we've been handing out a party comparison piece. Votinginfo.net is where you get it, votinginfo.net. A party comparison piece, and we've made a video to go along with it. Take a look.
In this year's election, two major powers are battling for power, and they could not be more different. These parties stand for different things, embrace different beliefs, and seek two very different types of America. Their opposing worldviews are found in the party platforms. The Democrat platform supports unlimited abortion, paid for by taxpayers. The Republican platform says the unborn child must be protected. The Democrat platform supports gay marriage. The Republican platform says marriage is between a man and a woman. The Democrat platform supports pro-abortion judges. The Republican platform calls for pro-life judges. At votinginfo.net, you can obtain a one-sheet comparison of the party platforms. It helps voters decide between the Democrat Party that wants to take away the Second Amendment, weaken the military, eliminate borders, promote abortion, and raise your taxes, and the Republican Party that wants to protect your Second Amendment rights, lower taxes, secure the borders, strengthen our military, and protect children from abortion. When you vote, remember, you are not just putting candidates into power, you are putting a party into power. Know what it stands for.
Well, friends, I hope you find that ad useful. You know, we've got the various ads that we're showing tonight all up on our website. Let me give you another address, prolifevote.com/election ads. Prolifevote.com is our main election website, /election ads. And you'll see these various ads that we're showing here tonight. You can use them. Use them, spread them, email them, put them on your social media. There's still time to influence votes. Still time. Let's use every minute that we have. Now, we're going through this brochure, and point number 8, distinguish choosing evil from limiting evil. And this brings us into a consideration still a little deeper about the question of, well, what about, neither candidate is really acceptable? Well, I mean, you can always find problems with both candidates, or all 3 or 4 or however many candidates are on the ballot for vying for a particular office, because everybody's imperfect. So how then do we choose? And sometimes people say, well, I don't want to choose between for the lesser of 2 evils, because they feel like they're still choosing evil. I'm here to tell you, you're not. When you see 2 people and you've got a problem with both, you find the better one. Now, according to the principle that we were just talking about before, you've got to look at what party they belong to, because they bring a whole lot with them with that party, and they may be the ones to push their party over the edge and get them into power. So you've got to be considering that. And you look also at the fact that, one person is going to do less harm than the other. You look at 2 candidates and say, oh, I don't like either one of them. But there's just as much of an impact in not voting as there is in voting. Now, voting for a third-party candidate, that may make you feel good, but what impact does it have on the race? It might have exactly the opposite impact that you would like to have, and you can't divorce your choice from the consequences. Because a choice you got person A, person B, okay? They're within striking distance of winning the race. Person C might be trailing way behind in terms of the level of support, but you feel better voting for person C. Well, wait a second. The election is about the common good, not about the good of how you feel. So don't vote for person C when the race is really between A and B, and one of them is going to actually win. You've got to look at who's going to actually win and what you can do to limit the damage. If you think they're both going to do harm of some kind, limit the harm. See, that's not choosing evil. That's choosing to limit evil. And when you choose to limit evil, you're choosing good. Let me use the example of a runaway train. These things are beyond our control. I mean, we have an influence on elections, sometimes a very big influence in close elections. But the bottom line is, if it's going to be between person A and person B, that you don't have control over. One of them is going to win the election. So the point is, it's like being on a runaway train. You can't stop the fact that train is going to, if you're looking at it from the point of view of they're going to do damage one way or the other, the train is going to do damage when it gets to the end of the track. But let's say the only thing that you could do, you can't stop the train, but the only thing you could do is switch the track. Wouldn't you want to switch the track to the track where it's going to do less damage? Let's say at the end of one track it's going to kill 100 people, at the end of another track it's going to kill 10. You're not choosing to kill those 10 by switching the track. You are choosing to limit the evil, and that's good. The fact that there's going to be damage is not under your control at all. It's beyond your intention. It's beyond your ability to prevent. But what is in your ability to prevent is the greater evil. So you're not choosing evil. You're choosing to limit evil, and that choice is a good. That's number 8. Now, number 9, we get into the question of supporting the candidate with more than your vote. This is so important. We are in the final hours now of midterm election 2018. You may have voted already. Otherwise, you'll be voting tomorrow, Election Day. But isn't there more to do than that? Does the campaign need some help? Remember, elections are not just competitions between two candidates. It's between two teams. And whichever team, the supporters of those candidates, get the most people out to vote, influence the most people, are the ones that win. So supporting the candidate with more than your vote, join the team. Donate to the campaign. Have you made a donation to the candidate of your choice? Volunteering for the campaign. Maybe there's going to be people going tomorrow from door to door, helping people get to the polls, or handing out literature at the last minute, even handing out literature near the polling places. Maybe last minute phone calls. Can you volunteer to do some of that for the campaign? It's a good idea to take the day off on Election Day and volunteer for the candidate of your choice. This would be an excellent thing to do. Getting out there, more yard signs, even at this last minute, sending emails, just reminding people to vote, and of course, praying for the candidate. All these things matter to voting with a clear conscience. And then finally, number 10, mobilize as many other voters as possible. We each have one vote, but we can each mobilize many other votes, scores of votes, maybe even hundreds or thousands of votes. Don't be afraid to use your influence and focus, my friends, on the low-hanging fruit. There is not time right now to convince that person who's been voting pro-abortion all their life, and you're going to spend, maybe if you spend hours on end with them talking and debating, you might be able to convince them, but even if you do, that's one vote. Meanwhile, there may be a dozen people that they're already inclined to listen to you and agree to you, but they just need a reminder, need a little bit of information on the candidate, need a little bit of the kind of reasoning that I've been sharing with you today. Reach out to them, because for an hour or two worth of your time, better to garner 12 votes than one. You'll go for the low-hanging fruit. If you're in an orange grove and you've got to collect as many oranges as possible within an hour, you don't go climbing up the top of the tree to get the ones that are far away. You get the ones that are close. Think about who's the low-hanging fruit in your life. Who maybe is not planning to vote tomorrow, but maybe because of the relationship you have with them, a little nudge from you would go a long way to get them to vote. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. That's what we need to be doing during these final hours. Well, let me show you another ad, and then we're going to come back and talk about some additional thoughts about the traps of Election Day and how to avoid them. So stay with us. Take a look at this ad. powerful ads. Once again, you can get them at prolifevote.com/election ads. prolifevote.com/election ads. Now, there are traps psychologically on election day, and I want to make sure you don't fall into any of them. So I want to mention them briefly. I did a column today for Newsmax.com. Great website, by the way, to check in on every once in a while, Newsmax.com. And I've got a regular column on that website, at least every 2 weeks, sometimes more often. I'll send them an article. Sent them one just today about these 10 traps of election day. Let me just go through them briefly with you. Number one, the thought might come to us, well, I'm nobody. I only have one vote, and my vote doesn't really count. I cannot emphasize with you strongly enough, brothers and sisters, it does count. Now, even if you're in a state or in a district where it's a very lopsided margin against the candidate that you favor, your vote still counts because all the votes are counted. And the number of people voting for a certain candidate, the campaigns take notice of that, the parties take notice of that, interest groups take notice of that, to measure across the country the sentiment, the values, the convictions, the directions, the trends in politics and on certain issues that are being manifested among the voters. So your vote counts for more than actually electing the person. It counts for tracking the people, for the people that are on our team and on our side and hold our values, for tracking the progress of our values. They need to know that we're there. This is what helps them to make plans for future elections and plans for all kinds of things. So yes, your vote always counts. Now, in some elections, it counts even more because the election is so close. And again, there are many close elections out there this time. Let me give you a few examples. And by the way, we also put up another special webpage, again, prolifevote.com/close elections. I want you to check out that page, prolifevote.com/close elections. And you're going to see a lot more examples, but I'll mention a few. Of course, we remember the election of 2000, the presidential election where George W. Bush won it by 537 votes. But look at this. A shift of less than one vote per precinct in a handful of states would have defeated Woodrow Wilson in 1916. A few votes per precinct in Illinois and a couple of others, and then Vice President Richard Nixon would have defeated John F. Kennedy in 1960. In 1974, Congressman Lewis Wyman was declared the victor of the U.S. Senate race in New Hampshire after a recount by 2 votes. Your vote counts. And you don't know how close these races are going to be tomorrow. Second trap, they're all bums. No candidate is worthwhile. Well, of course, no candidate is perfect, and we know that there are faults. But the point is not to be comparing the candidates that are on the ballot with some imaginary candidate or some high standard. You got to be comparing them with one another. I mean, that's the reality of the race itself. And then, of course, we work with them, we work with whoever's elected and try to keep them on the straight and narrow as much as we can. And also, the solution to this, too, is to be recruiting good men and women to run for office. Keep an eye out and encourage those that you think might best serve. There's something to be said for the fact that some of the best people who should be in positions in public office are not the ones that are looking so hard for them or wanting so badly to be in them. Maybe it's the people that aren't thinking of themselves as being in those positions because they're not looking for power, but they would be great at service. And maybe they have the characteristics that you recognize it better than they do. Be on the lookout for good potential candidates and mention that to them. Trap number 3, I cannot be a single issue voter. Well, of course you can. Single issues motivate people all the time to get involved in politics and to fight for change in the political system and to get the right people into office. This election, trap number 4 says, doesn't matter. We can't put our trust in worldly power anyway. Those that we elect, they end up disappointing us. Don't let cynicism take hold in your mind. Don't jump too quickly to, oh, so-and-so betrayed us, so-and-so disappointed us. It is not easy to be in public office. And it's not just that we have to hold their feet to the fire. Of course, there's truth in that. But we have to hold their arms in the air. Remember the story of Moses and Aaron and her getting next to him and holding his arms up while he was holding up the staff, and it helped the Israelites to gain victory over the Philistines. The point is, we put these people in public office. We're putting them into a crucible. We've got to be there to support them. And to say that we don't trust in them, of course they're not our savior. And of course they can disappoint us. But the fact of the matter is the election does matter. They are in that position. They have power. And we've got to be sure that we are putting the best possible people in. Trap number 5, I'll show them, and we'll use an election to vent our anger or our frustration. Again, it's not about us. It's about the common good. These people are going to be in office for a while. It's going to go beyond what particular feeling of anger or resentment we may have. Bottom line is, it's not about us. It's about what they're going to be able to do or what we have to stop them from doing to the rest of society. Trap number 6, I'm swayed about what the media or the polls are saying about who's winning. Well, let me show you something that came out today. A CNN poll found the Democrats up 13 points. Politico has the Democrats up only 3 points. Rasmussen poll has the GOP up by 1 point. Now, they can't all be right. And you talk to pollsters and they know that they're not infallible. You know, polling is projection to a large extent. It's taking a measurement of some information we can find and then projecting, extrapolating. That's filled with question marks. It's not just filled with numbers. It's filled with question marks. It's filled with unknowns. And especially in the political climate today in America, we saw 2 years ago, didn't we, how unknown the outcome of an election can really be until the end of election night. Trap number 7, I'll go later. We mentioned it before. Don't go later, go sooner. Don't let anything interfere with you getting your vote cast tomorrow. You might say, I'll do it later, and then you get distracted, or maybe you don't feel well, or you have car trouble, or the weather turns bad, or somebody needs you unexpectedly. Please don't wait till later. Get it done as early as possible to minimize the chances of not being able to get it done at all. Trap number 8, election happens, and then you say, okay, I'll worry about it 2 years from now. I don't have to think about this anymore. Don't get into the trap of not thinking about it anymore. When the election finishes tomorrow, guess what starts? The election of 2020. And that shouldn't fill us with dread. That shouldn't make us say, oh, no, we need a break. We got to win big in the election of 2020. We've got a lot of work to do. It's got to start now. And so we're going to take care of this election, and then we're going to set our sights on the next one. We've got to go from victory to victory. We've got to keep building this up. Next time is already here. Trap number 9, overconfidence. Don't be overconfident. Don't be overconfident, because sometimes that can lead us to take things for granted and sit back and not do anything. No matter how much confidence you have in the candidate of your choice in any race, act as if they need all the help you can give them. That's the safest way to do it, even if they're very much far ahead. The only best way to do it is to work with all the strength you have. And point number 10, don't think that just electing them is enough. You got to work with these people. We have to lobby. We have to keep in contact. We have to support the individuals that we put into public office. So, brothers and sisters, I want to mention one more thing as we conclude here tonight, and that is that some additional information has come out in these recent days about one of the things that is motivating a lot of people in this election, and that was the Kavanaugh hearings. Did you hear the news about the accusers of Kavanaugh, some of them, who now have come forward and said, no, I did this to get attention and I've never even met this man. Look it up. And not only that, but the Senate Judiciary Committee issued a 400-page report summarizing the investigation that was launched as a result of the accusations that were brought forward, some of which now the people coming forward actually admitted were false. 400-page report making it crystal clear that he is clear, making it crystal clear that there is no evidence behind these accusations. This is a very important report. I'm waiting to hear, now maybe I missed it, you let me know, but I'm waiting to hear any of these liberal Senate Democrats who made such a circus out of that entire hearing, who threw out the window any concept of due process or innocent until proven guilty, who took the words of everyone and anyone who kept piling on accusations as if they were gospel revelations of dogmatic certainty from above. I want to hear a single one of them apologize to Justice Kavanaugh, his family, and the American people. I want to hear, I haven't heard anything yet. I haven't even heard them say that people are innocent until proven guilty. And along these lines, I want you to take as an inspiration the fact that we have a chance to change the Senate. We have a chance to get some bad people out and some good people in this election tomorrow, and that we should have learned from the Kavanaugh hearings about the attitude that these Democrat senators have, and we just don't need that in our public life anymore. I want to remind you of how it felt during those Kavanaugh hearings by showing you the clip of Senator Lindsey Graham's reaction to these people, these colleagues in the Senate, the Democrats, who did this absolutely despicable behavior in the way they treated Judge Kavanaugh and his family at that time. Take a look at, let's listen again and grab for ourselves the spirit here of Senator Lindsey Graham.
Are you aware that at 9:23 on the night of July the 9th, the day you were nominated to the Supreme Court by President Trump, Senator Schumer said, 23 minutes after your nomination, I will oppose Judge Kavanaugh's nomination with everything I have. I have a bipartisan, and I hope a bipartisan majority will do the same. The stakes are simply too high for anything less. Well, if you weren't aware of it, you are now. Did you meet with Senator Dianne Feinstein on August 20th?
I did meet with Senator Feinstein.
Did you know that her staff had already recommended a lawyer to Dr. Ford?
I did not know that.
Did you know that her and her staff had this allegations for over 20 days?
I did not know that at the time.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You've said that, not me. You've got nothing to apologize for. When you see Sotomayor and Kagan, tell them that Lindsey said hello, because I voted for them. I would never do to them what you've done to this guy. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Are you a gang rapist?
No.
I cannot imagine what you and your family have gone through. Boy, y'all want power. God, I hope you never get it. I hope the American people can see through this sham, that you knew about it and you held it. You had no intention of protecting Dr. Ford. None. She's as much of a victim as you are. God, I hate to say it because these have been my friends. But let me tell you, when it comes to this, you're looking for a fair process. You came to the wrong town at the wrong time, my friend. Do you consider this a job interview?
The advice and consent role is like a job interview.
Consider that you've been through a job interview.
I've been through a process of advice and consent under the Constitution, which
Would you say you've been through hell?
I've been through hell and then some.
This is not a job interview.
Yeah.
This is hell.
This
This is going to destroy the ability of good people to come forward because of this crap. Your high school yearbook. You have interacted with professional women all your life, not one accusation. You're supposed to be Bill Cosby when you're a junior and senior in high school. And all of a sudden you got over it. It's been my understanding that if you drug women and rape them for 2 years in high school, you probably don't stop. Here's my understanding. If you lived a good life, people would recognize it, like the American Bar Association has the gold standard. His integrity is absolutely unquestioned. He is the very circumspect in his personal conduct, harbors no biases or prejudices. He's entirely ethical, is a really decent person. He is warm, friendly, unassuming. He's the nicest person. The ABA. The one thing I can tell you, you should be proud of. Ashley, you should be proud of this, that you raised a daughter who had the good character to pray for Dr. Ford. To my Republican colleagues, if you vote no, you're legitimizing the most despicable thing I have seen in my time in politics. You want this seat? I hope you never get it. I hope you're on the Supreme Court. That's exactly where you should be. And I hope that the American people will see through this charade. And I wish you well, and I intend to vote for you, and I hope everybody who's fair-minded will.
The most unethical sham that he has seen in his life in politics. I can agree with that. It's the most unethical sham I've ever seen since my brother and I, as young kids, were watching with great interest the Republican and Democratic national conventions on television in the 70s. Brothers and sisters, the Senate Democrats acted in such a despicable way, it must not be forgotten when we go to the polls tomorrow as a nation. It cannot and must not be forgotten because this party, the Democrat Party, has wedded itself to this kind of despicable behavior. It will continue. It will continue on and on again. It will continue if they continue to be in the minority, and it will continue a million times worse if they get into the majority. And it's not just on the Senate side, it's on the House side. And anybody who thinks that a priest or a Christian or anybody else who cares about America and who cares about honesty and who cares about morality is supposed to keep quiet about this crap has another thing coming. We're not being true to ourselves. We're not being true to America. We're not being true to the norms of honesty, decency, fairness, and respect if we keep quiet in the sight of a sham like this. And like Senator Lindsey Graham said, he hopes the American people can see through this sham. Well, we'll find out in about 24 hours whether or not the people have been able, whether or not you and your friends and everybody that's listening right now have been able to see through this sham and said, no, we're not going to tolerate a party that tramples roughshod over someone's reputation just to get power, who does not care about principles like innocent until proven guilty, who does not respect the processes of the United States Senate, the United States Congress, to which they themselves have been elected. They took this information and they sat on it and they waited and they used the pain of people like Dr. Ford for their own political advantage. And not once did I hear a Senate Democrat answer the pure and simple question, is he innocent until proven guilty? They should have said, yes, of course, and they didn't. And now, I suppose we will wait in vain and just hear silence instead of any kind of apology to him. The president apologized. The president didn't even do anything wrong. But on the part of the American people, the night I was there with the president and with Judge Kavanaugh, Justice Kavanaugh, at the White House for his swearing in, I was able to be there and hear the president offer an apology to the justice and to his family, and really, frankly, to the whole American people, because we deserve an apology from the Democrat Party. They haven't given it. I don't think they're going to give it. And that's why, I'm going to say it again, they don't deserve to be in public office any longer in this country. So, brothers and sisters, I want to show you one more ad. It's the fourth one of these very powerful ads that have been prepared to show us the stark reality of the choice that we face in this election. And then after this ad, we'll be back with some concluding thoughts and with our election prayer. Stay with us.
If you see anybody in a restaurant,
Let my wife through.
in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd, and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I was attacked from behind, unaware, never saw my assailant.
When they go low, we go high.
No. When they go low, we kick them.
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about.
I was there at the ball field when Stephen Scalise almost died. There is going to be an assassination if this doesn't ratchet down.
The FBI says it has stopped a plot to set off a massive bomb on Washington, D.C.'s National Mall on Election Day.
That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again. But until then, the only thing that the Republicans seem to recognize and respect is strength.
If there's some collateral damage for some others who do not share our view, well, so be it.
FedUp is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Well, friends, I don't know about you, but I think the choice is pretty darn clear. And we've got a pretty big opportunity here. We've done a lot of teaching, we've done a lot of preaching, we've done a lot of communicating, we've done a lot of mailings, we've done a lot of emails, we've done a lot of websites, we've done a lot of social media. You've done your part too. There's still time to do more. Let's use this next 24 hours to the best we can. Remember, one more thought. There's a lot of people who have been paying zero attention to the election up until now. So many of us, we've been thinking about it for the last 2 years. But some of our fellow citizens who are going to vote, they're just asking. Tonight they're starting to ask. Tomorrow morning at breakfast, they'll turn to somebody and they'll say, so tell me, who's running? Who are we voting for today? And this is where you can make the influence. You can make an influence. You can send somebody some of the things that we've been showing you in the voter guides or these ads. Don't think that, oh, well, now there's nothing more to do now but wait and see how the vote turns out. No, these last 24 hours, we got to really push. Because some people are just starting to try to figure it out now. Other people, they'll try to figure it out once they get into the voting booth. It's not over till it's over. So let's push really hard. And let's pray really hard. And that's what I want to invite you to do with me now with the electionprayer.com. This prayer that we have been pushing like crazy. Election prayer for life. Let's say it now together. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Oh God, we acknowledge you today as Lord not only of individuals, but of nations and governments. We thank you for the privilege of being able to organize ourselves politically, and of knowing that political loyalty does not have to mean disloyalty to you. We thank you for your law, which our founding fathers acknowledged and recognized as higher than any human law. We thank you for the opportunity that this election year puts before us to exercise our solemn duty not only to vote, but to influence countless others to vote and to vote correctly. Lord, we pray that your people may be awakened. Let them realize that while politics is not their salvation, their response to you requires that they be politically active. Awaken your people to know that they are not called to be a sect fleeing the world, but rather a community of faith renewing the world. Awaken them that the same hands lifted up to you in prayer are the hands that pull the lever in the voting booth, that the same eyes that read your word are the eyes that read the names on the ballot, and that they do not cease to be Christians when they enter the voting booth. Awaken your people to a commitment to justice, to the sanctity of marriage and the family, to the dignity of each individual human life, and to the truth that human rights begin when human lives begin and not one moment later. Lord, we rejoice today that we are citizens of your kingdom. May that make us all the more committed to being faithful citizens on earth. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Thanks, friends, for sticking with me tonight. Thanks for all you're doing for this election. Don't stop now. Let's make these next 24 hours really count for victory. Good night and God bless you.